What's up, guys? I have some exciting news to share with you today. As most of you, I think, are aware, Haley and I are stateside missionaries with an organization called Globe International, which is over in Pensacola, Florida. And back in 2017, the Lord called us to step out and launch a ministry called Operation Lost Sheep with the simple marching orders to leave the 99 and go after the one. And so at the heartbeat of everything that we do is helping to restore people back to God the Father. And 2020 was a crazy year. It looked different for all of us, even from a ministry standpoint. In the past, we traveled across America and we spoke at churches, sharing God's heart for restoring the lost. And then we also worked with their leadership team and their congregation to help build a restoration plan that they could take out into their communities. We also spent time doing one-on-one restoration with people. But COVID changed all that. For one, a lot of churches either weren't open or weren't bringing in guest speakers. And then also people were a little more hesitant to meet one-on-one. But what 2020 did bring us was a greater need to go out after the lost, the lonely, and the forgotten ones. And so a couple of ways that we did that, one was through homeless outreach. In the past, we were doing that on a monthly basis. But in 2020, what we saw is so many of the resources that the homeless community needs, they were getting from churches and centers, but those places, due to COVID, they were closed. And so we were doing outreaches on a weekly basis. The other thing is disaster relief. This past year, hurricane season, it was a historic year along the Gulf Coast. And so we went to Lake Charles, Louisiana to do disaster relief. We also did it here in our own backyard of Baldwin County, Alabama for several months. And then we went up to Michigan after the dams collapsed up there. And so along with COVID-19, there were several other things that we saw in America. There was a lot of rioting that took place this past year. We saw a lot of racial tension and division. We saw disunity. We saw a lot of hatred and fear in people and depression. We also saw financial loss in a lot of families. And so the need for Jesus Christ in America has never been greater. And so going into this new year, there has been such an urgency in Haley and I's spirit to see America restored back to God. The alarm has been sounded in us to carry that out, to be more intentional, to carry that message out across America. And it's because of that we have been praying and asking the Lord and believe with everything in us that God is calling us to step out into full-time ministry because the harvest is ripe. The time is now. And so as stateside missionaries, we are called to be the goers, to take this message across the country. But we also need senders. Romans 10, 14 through 15 talks about this very thing. It says, how can they call upon the one who can save them unless they believe in him? And how can they believe in him unless they hear about him? And how can they hear about him unless someone tells them? And how can someone go and tell them unless they are sent? And so it's biblical that we have goers and that we have senders. And together, we can reach people with God's restorational power. And so there's a couple of things that we need from you. First is we need your prayers. We covet your prayers because there are some dangerous situations and environments that we go into. And so prayer is vital. The second is we need financial partners. We have met with Globe's leadership team and come up with a budget of $3,000 a month. And so there are two ways that you can help us in reaching this goal. First is if we have 30 people commit to giving $100 a month, we can be fully funded. The second is if 60 people commit to $50 a month, we can be fully funded. And so with this $3,000, it'll allow us to do even more outreaches going after the lost. It'll help cover the travel cost and supplies doing disaster relief trips. It'll help cover travel cost when we go out and share this message across the country in churches in America. It'll help us do even more one-on-one restoration through the restoration plan God has given us. And lastly, it'll help us to build stronger relationships within our own community, with churches and pastors, with business leaders, with law enforcement agencies, and with other organizations such as Youth Reach Gulf Coast, which we already have a great partnership with. And so right there below is the link where you can go to click and start your donation. And I would just pray that you would ask the Lord how you can come alongside and help partner with us. And so we thank you guys. We thank you for your love and your support. And we thank you for helping us answer the go.
No place you wanna go. You're searching high and low.